when we look at all of these different forms of infrastructure, when we look at the lock builders, the moving of the blocks along a sled, the hardening of the sand to create paths, how does this help inform the development of their society in terms of like long-term infrastructure? Were these techniques something they use for building other buildings or other structures?
You've got it, right? So you've built this lock and you've built this canal to get stone, right, which is a hard-used material, to the river. Now, once that stone gets to the Nile, it doesn't only go to the pyramids. It can go anywhere throughout the whole of Egypt.
And go anywhere throughout the whole of Egypt to build what? Like to build...
let's say, cities, houses, palaces, all sorts of infrastructure. The point is, right, that the grand nation-building project that was the pyramids of Giza unlocked a material for the rest of the country to make use of.
And that material was stone.
Exactly. Or a particular kind of stone from Aswan. And the point is that they set up an infrastructure and also an industry around getting the stone carved out of the mountainside and getting it to Cairo, which means it opened up a whole new way to trade between these two places, right?
Yeah.
Now, we're speaking about it in isolation, like it's a once-off thing, but this obviously happened thousands of times along, up and down the Nile. And that kind of technology and that technique, right, was used to unlock different portions of the Nile. And in the way that, in Aswan, they got the stone out of the mountainside down to the Nile. And in Giza, they got the stone up the hill to the site. They've kind of broadened the building ratio, the building space of the Nile. It's kind of allowed the Nile to be more effective in a larger area, essentially.
Okay. Yeah. So that is a very amazing conclusion we've come to in saying that the innovation and techniques that were required to figure out how these pyramids were going to be built, how we're going to move these massive blocks of stone from one part of Egypt to the desired location in the Gizas, that essentially created the blueprint and the know-how required to then use that stone and just expand the city. So what may have started with the pyramids then gave them the know-how to build other things.
Exactly. And without let's say a mega project like the pyramids, right?
Yeah.
Because the original techniques and knowledge, right, came from agriculture and water control, right?
Yeah.
But it had never been used on that scale before, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, no way.
Exactly. So it needed a project like the pyramids that required these massive granite and sandstone blocks to kind of push the industry and the infrastructure in that area to create those techniques, right? Without the nation-building project that was the pyramids, the rest of Egypt wouldn't have had access to as many resources or as many techniques as they had, essentially.
Yeah.
It unlocked a lot of things.
And you always get that when it comes to these national projects. I think when you talk about this and you talk about all of the different techniques and technology that help to unlock, which then had these other uses and work to develop that region, I just immediately think of an equivalent in landing the man on the moon, where the project, the goal in itself, in
didn't
some way
directly help people, right? Yeah.
But the innovation and R&D that it drove led to so many other innovations in terms of I think the use of satellite technology, communications technology.
Exactly. Communications technology, broadcasting, GPS locations, the internet. I mean, there's so many things that came from. You could consider it a research and development project, but really, and I think that's the perfect example. The space race, just like the pyramids, is a legacy project, right? It wasn't built because they want to push the boundaries of technology. It was built because the US wanted to prove that it's better than the USSR.
Yeah.
And it was built and the pyramids were built because the pharaohs at the time wanted a legacy, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't about helping people. It wasn't about providing satellites or the GPS. That was just an extra additional thing.
Yeah.
And maybe the people who actually worked on it, like in the case of Egypt, right? Maybe the architects and the engineers and all those people did want to push those things. But that was a complete side effect of this project, which was mainly about nation building.
Yeah. And I guess, that is what is amazing about that in respect to, understanding the techniques and developing the technology needed to transport those blocks from one part of the country to another and, get to building these pyramids created a situation where, okay, we can get the ball rolling, we can get to work and start building. And in turn, you can now get the workers there. And it's a situation where the workers, in order to work effectively, they have to be settled nearby the source of the pyramids where they're going to build these things. Exactly. And that in itself leads to settlements around that area, and then gives rise to a larger city, which is then going to need those buildings, those houses, those structures that you could now use these new-found techniques to help facilitate and expand on.
Exactly. And I mean, you can nearly guarantee that the reason Aswan is a big city today is because of those projects 4,500 years ago.
Wow, yeah. The magic of infrastructure. You took the ball here. I'm just asking away, and crazy to see. Yeah, the pyramid was the impetus, but the pyramid in itself doesn't really mean anything. It's more about the process, and I guess exactly. It's life. It's not about the destination; it's about the journey. And it was the journey needed, i.e., the infrastructure to undergird all of that, is what really led to
the creation of this monumental thing, right?
The creation of this monumental thing and civilization.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah,
exactly. It led to industries, it led to cities, it led to culture, cross-cultural stuff, It's and it really is the infrastructure and the technique behind that unlocks all of that. But without somebody saying, I want to build a big-ass pyramid in Giza, none of it would have happened. The Egyptians would have remained very simple agricultural people, and they would never had a need to transport 2.4-ton granite blocks from Aswan to Cairo.